Hello, now we are going to look at how to use the knee grip to take long shavings off of a piece of timber. Whenever we want to use our knives for any purpose, we're going to have our first aid kit out and immediately to hand, so not packed away but out with us. We're going to have a trained first aider whose training is in date, and everyone's going to know who that first aider is. Finally, before we take our knives out of our sheaths, we are going to make sure the blood circle, the area and arm's width around and behind us, is completely clear of anyone. When we've done all of that, we are able to take our knives out of our sheaths. So where would we use our knee grip for taking long shavings? There's two areas that this cut is particularly useful for. One is for making shavings that stay on a stick, which we would tend to call a fuzz stick or a feather stick. So these are long shavings that we've left attached to the stick. That's one very good use of the knee grip. The other is if we want to create long smooth surfaces like for a handle. So if I look at the handle of this spatula here, if I wanted to make a shaving that went all the way from the blade of the spatula down to the end of the handle, so I had a nice smooth surface to hold on to, I'd be able to use the knee grip to take these very long shavings that give me a very comfortable handle to hold on to. So those are the type of areas that we would use our knee grip in. So the way that we would instinctively maybe take shavings off of a piece of timber, if we hadn't been trained in how to use a knife, is to just bend our elbow and push the knife away from us. So if we check blood circle, it's clear. To take the knife out of the sheath, remove the bungee, put the thumb on the top of the sheath and push the knife loose using the thumb and then pull it out of the sheath. So if I hadn't been trained in how to use my knife, what I might do is just start pushing the knife away, bending my elbow and pushing the knife away from me. The problem with this cut is that I am sending the knife flying around the place, and I'm also putting a lot of shock up into my arm. If I keep doing this for an extended period of time, I'm going to end up hurting myself because all of this shock keeps lashing out into my arm as I'm working. So for those two reasons, we would never use this cut where we are bending our elbow in order to push the knife away. There are always better options, and where we want to make long shavings, the knee grip is the best option for us. So what we do with the knee grip, instead of pushing the knife away from us, we're going to hold the knife still and we're going to move the piece of timber instead, and that's going to look like the following. So I'm pulling the stick across my body, and I can see that I can take these really long controlled shavings when I pull the stick across my body like this. So what's working here that's allowing me to take those long shavings? Well, the first thing is my hand is locked in place against my knee, and the way that I do that is that I have this ramp for the muscle, and the bone of my thumb creates a kind of a ramp at the bottom of my hand. And what I do is I feel my kneecap, and just underneath my kneecap there's a saddle point, a kind of a little dip just beneath my kneecap, and the ramp of my thumb, the back of my thumb, gets locked into that saddle point underneath my kneecap. Now that knife hand doesn't move anywhere. All that I'm going to do is control the angle of my cut, so how deeply I dig into the piece of timber, by rotating my hand. And I also want to let the tip of the knife point up a little bit towards me. It's going to allow the knife to slice the timber a little bit more effectively, and we always want a slicing cut in carving. And it also puts a little bit less stress on our wrist, just to let the tip of the knife point up a little bit towards us. So that hand is now locked in place, the tip of the knife pointing a little bit up towards us. What I want to do is create these really long, thin shavings as I'm carving. I don't want to dig into the piece of timber with this cut. I just want to slide along the surface. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to have the bevel of my knife, the shiny part of my knife here, is a flat surface that goes all the way down from the side of the knife, the dark part here, all the way down to the cutting edge. So for a carving knife, I have this really wide, flat bevel that allows me to keep the knife very controlled in the way it cuts into the timber. So what I'm going to do is I have that big, wide, flat bevel, and I'm going to try and hold it flat to the stick as I'm carving along. So it's going to slide along that big, flat bevel. So it's not going to dig down deep into the piece of timber, it's just going to slide along that surface. And in that way, it's not going to dig in, it's going to let me take a consistent shaving over a long distance. So I start my cut right next to the handle of my knife, and I have the tip facing back a little bit towards me, and then I'm able to pull the stick across my body, keeping that bevel really flat to the surface. You can see that my arm is coming out to my side. I'm not pulling the timber in towards my stomach, I'm pulling it out to the side of my body. I'm keeping my back fairly straight so that my elbow stays high above this leg. I don't want my arm rubbing against this leg as I'm pulling back. I want to make sure that I'm keeping my back up straight so that my arm doesn't bump into anything as I'm trying to pull across at a consistent angle. I want to pull the stick straight across my body so that I amn't changing my angle, so I can keep that bevel flat and make a nice long consistent shaving all the way down along the stick. One thing to watch out for with this carving is that we are used to using our hand for doing the carving, so if we stop paying attention to what we're doing, a common mistake we can make is to switch back to using our hand. So we keep our hand locked in against our knee, but instead of keeping it still, we end up trying to do some of the carving just pushing away like this. And it doesn't do us any good. We can't take long shavings this way, and it's not particularly controlled. So we want to avoid that. This hand is going to stay locked in place and is not going to move. It's not part of doing the cutting at all. The timber moving is what gives us our slicing cut from our handle out to the tip of the knife. You can see starting near the handle, moving out to the tip of the knife is how we get this good slicing cut that allows us to do our work cleanly and well. As I'm finished using the knife, I'm going to put it back in its sheath immediately and put the bungee back on it. So that's how I can use my knee grip to take long shavings off of a piece of timber. And that is what we need for now.